Did you know that back in the original Dragon Ball Xenoverse game, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1, for some strange reason, while you're flying and you're in the air, for some reason you can jump? Now, there's a good chance this was maybe a glitch or a bug, or at least at the bare minimum, some sort of oversight, because this was removed even going to like the first closed beta test for Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. There is a glitch in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 where if you use Burst Charge on Ultra Supervillain Super Saiyan God Vegeta from the Future Saga Chapter 1 DLC update, a voice line of Restrained Broly will play instead of the voice line from Vegeta. Take a listen. Something that a lot of people seem to have just completely missed is that once you defeat Final Form Mira in the main story mode for Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, it doesn't matter which ending you get, but once you defeat Final Form Mira and then the animated outro plays, Goku and Whis are in Conton City, as you can see right here, and behind Goku there is a structure which the base or like the what pillar of it or what have you heavily resembles that of Korin's Tower from Dragon Ball. It's what Goku in the original Dragon Ball series climbed up on to get stronger to fight, I believe it was to fight Tail Pai Pai. This is nowhere to be seen in Conton City, and this wasn't even in the first beta test and then removed later on. This isn't anywhere in Conton City, as of right now at least, in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, meaning that, well, it's been removed. Now, there's quite a few changes or things that just aren't there in this animated outro. For example, when Goku and Whis are talking here, you can see this building which has like the 3 segmented rooms in there, and the building is white, at least the top of it is, but in Conton City it's white, yellow, and I believe blue, or it's a dark blue. But yeah, so it's roughly around here, I think, around give or take this area in Conton City right here, where this Korin-like structure would be. I do wonder what this would be used for. I kind of have a feeling it would be to unlock some sort of limit breaking thing. As in, maybe this could have been where Elder Kai would have gone to, or been to train you with the challenge quests or the robot for the advancement tests. Unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to get an answer for this, because this was something that, at least in some point during the early planning of Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, this was planned to be in Conton City, but naturally as the game and the development went on, for some reason that we probably will never get an answer to, for some reason, it was removed. If you pick preset 2 of Majuub, which is the gift preset that resembles Oob, but it's still Majuub as a character, there's a special use for Super God Fist. If you use Super Dragon Fist, then immediately use Super God Fist, it will teleport, quite similar to how, I guess to some extent, Savage Strike would work. This only applies to this specific preset of this specific character. If you try and use it on Goku, or rather custom Goku, because I don't believe any other preset of Goku, as of right now at least, outside of custom, has Super God Fist and Super Dragon Fist on the same preset. It has to be custom, or even on a custom character, the Super God Fist part will not warp. This only applies to preset 2 of Majuub, the Oob-inspired preset. Despite quite literally inventing the attack, there is no version or preset of Piccolo as of right now in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 that can use any version of Masenko. Now yes, he can use reverse Mebiku Senko, but that's just an attack that sounds similar. Masenko and the reverse Mebiku Senko, completely different skills, they just vaguely sound similar. One of them is a beam sort of attack, and the other one is a counter. Now again, I know there's going to be people in the comments that I'm going to be like, oh well, actually Gohan invented this in episode 200 and... yeah, okay, no one cares. But no, Gohan only popularized it. This is an attack that I believe it was Piccolo, like as a kid, he used it in the world. I have to rewatch it, but no, Piccolo, this is a specifically Piccolo invented skill. It's like how, for example, Goku popularized certain skills, such as the Kamehameha, despite that being invented by Master Roshi, and the Spirit Bomb and Kaioken despite those being skills created and invented by King Kai. Just funny how, quite arguably, the three most iconic and popular skills of Goku, not including Super Saiyan, because Kaioken's a technique, Super Saiyan's a transformation, Kamehameha, Kaioken, and Spirit Bomb, the three most iconic Goku skills, all completely stolen. Going back all the way now to Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1, there was a quite advanced technique that people use mostly online against other players called Kamehameha Cancelling. The essence of this, and the footage you can see right here, I wouldn't say I'm embarrassed by it, but given how, not laggy, but given Xenoverse 1 is in 30 frames instead of 60, it is quite jarring, trying to do this with pretty much no prior practice for years. The essence of this is that you will do something, for example, a basic light combo, again, for example, then to cancel the animation so you can move out the way, you'll then go for the Kamehameha super attack. It has to specifically be the standard Kamehameha super attack, nothing else, not the super Kamehameha, not burst, not times 10, not the Kamehameha, just a standard basic Kamehameha super attack, you know which one I'm talking about. Then you would use it, and the second that it's used, the split second that it's used, you'll then jump X on PlayStation to then move out the way, and this wouldn't take any key when using the Kamehameha because you've not charged it and you've not activated it. This is pretty much akin to what Ki Blast Cancelling is in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, and Ki Blast Cancelling is much easier than Kamehameha Cancelling. Did you know that Android 16 has a unique animation when he uses any of his basic or charged Ki Blasts? And bonus fact, as far as I'm aware, custom Android 16, which you can change the Super Soul on and other things, his moveset and what have you, as far as I'm aware, the charge Ki Blast for custom Android 16 will stay the same as the heavy Ki Blast. I do think most other characters can change depending on the Super Soul, but whatever, that's neither here or there. As you can see right here, when using Android 16, any of the Ki Blasts, he will remove one of his hands and shoot it that way, kind of like when he goes for Hell's Flash. Now, I do know there's at least one other character that has a unique charged Ki Blast animation, that being, funny enough, his mom, Android 21, Volmi, and that's if you didn't know that. Sucks to suck. but let me know in the comments, are there any other characters as of right now in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 that have a different animation when you go for either and or both the basic Ki Blast or the charge Ki Blast? I want to say there's at least one more, but off the top of my head, recording this part right here, I can't quite remember. Let me know in the comments. The Stylist in Conton City, to some extent, resembles Peter Griffin from the Family Guy series. I mean, it could be a coincidence, but it's like the same hair color, the same sort of clothing, the same colors of the clothing. Someone pointed this out in the previous video in this series, and I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. It kind of resembles Peter Griffin. Sure. If you use the Darkness Mixer super attack on the various villainous mode characters in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, it will charge up both their ki and stamina, but with a priority on ki, meaning if you charge it up, then you get max ki, but you still don't have your stamina maxed out, it's going to stop. But it can somewhat be a pseudo burst charge for stamina, as you can see right here. When you have max ki, if you still don't have full stamina, you can use it and it will give you a little bit of stamina back, pretty much for nothing. Plus, do keep in mind, Darkness Mixer does give you some sort of protection. Now, granted, a basic Ki Blast will stop the attack, or rather stop the charge, but if you just dash through your opponent while you are using Darkness Mixer, it's going to do a tiny bit of damage and stun them. So do keep in mind that if you don't have full stamina but max ki and you can use Darkness Mixer, just spam it if you can to just supercharge to some extent your stamina. If you go into photo mode and have Whis as one of the options, that you can pick as a character and have the command for him to use Super Attack 4. As you can see right here, he will just randomly fly up. Yeah, sure. Now, this is because at least preset 1 of Whis only has 3 Super Attacks, so the 4th Super Attack is a completely empty slot, and for some reason, it makes the character fly up, and if you repeatedly tap the input quickly, he will constantly fly up until he goes to the invisible ceiling. I don't know why it does this. Xenoverse 2 is a very strange game in some regards, where if you don't have an attack on one of your supers, or possibly even an ultimate or evasive, and you make the character do it, they just fly up randomly. Yeah, Xenoverse 2 certainly is Xenoverse 2. Back in the original Xenoverse game, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1, the basic Ki Blast animation used both arms, or rather both hands. But going from Xenoverse 1 into Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, as you can see, the basic Ki Blast animation just uses one hand. Now granted, if you go for the fully charged, I guess like the default sane charge Ki Blast in Xenoverse 2, it does technically use both hands, but it's not like the consecutive energy blast sort of animation like you can see in Xenoverse 1, which uses both left and right hands to shoot the Ki Blasts in turn, which, side note, I think the animation from Xenoverse 1 for this is much, much better, and it just looks cooler than what it is as of right now in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. In Majin Buu's house in the Majin Buu Time Rift in Conton City, there are several Majins that you can feed to give you certain items such as Super Souls, material items, healing items like capsules, and clothing. One of these Majins is named Ichigo. Now, this could be rather a reference to the Bleach series, the anime and the manga, but let me know in the comments because I have absolutely no idea. Perhaps is Ichigo a common Japanese name? I genuinely don't know. I've not watched the Bleach series, the anime or the manga. I don't really watch anime, to be honest. So if this is a common name in Japan, please let me know if it is or if it isn't, if you actually know, in the comments. For this next one, I'm fairly certain everyone knows what this is because of how much of a meme it became when it first came out during the release of Hero of Justice Pack 2 for Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. But if you pick Gohan Beast against Mastered Ultra Instinct Goku, Ultra Instinct Goku has a very interesting voice line. I don't know if this is a glitch. If it was, I would have imagined it would have been fixed by now, but the audio just sounds really strange. Again, I'm fairly certain you all know what this is, but just in case you don't, or if you want to hear it again, or if you want a refresher, take a listen.
Bring it on, Gohan. I'm going to surpass you, Dad.
Did you know that if you use the instant transmission super attack locked off, it will automatically lock on to your opponent? Now, of course, for this to actually work, you do actually need to be in range of it, so you can't just use it if you are, for example, on the Glacier stage or the Archipelago stage and you like the furthest away possible. You have to be able to be in range to lock on normally. Now, there may be actually a bit of a deeper meaning as to why this works like this, and a more lore accurate to some extent, reason. That being that it's stated in the series that instant transmission can only be used to lock on to someone's, I guess, like key signature, meaning you need to be able to sense them. So, for example, Goku can't use instant transmission to go anywhere he wants. He can if he can actually sense the person's ki. For example, when Goku's on Earth, he can use it to go to King Kai's planet because he's been there before. He knows King Kai's ki, his key signature, his energy, whatever you want to call it. Now, do keep in mind, this is just for instant transmission. It's not for the Kai instantaneous movement skill. I believe that's called Kai, which is also in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. But yeah, it's just, again, something that you may not think of, that why would you use instant transmission locked off in Xenoverse 2 anyway, or what have you? Like, there's no reason to do it. So when I found this out a few days ago, I thought, you know what, that's actually quite nice, and there's most likely a slightly deeper meaning to it. You are doing a payload quest and you have the computer as your teammates. If you fly just above the ground, getting it just right is a little bit tricky, but if you can just fly just above a solid ground, the computer, if it's on the ground, when you do this, will jump infinitely, as you can see Vegeta doing here, Oh yes, Yosha in the comments. Now this is probably because you are at the, I guess, like the threshold to some extent of being on the ground and being in the air, so the computer is trying to jump to fly, or rather than trying to fly, but because you are at that very special, I guess to some extent, a bit of a Goldilocks zone, the computer doesn't know what to do, so it just jumps infinitely until the timer runs out, or of course until you move and you pull them out of the suffering. When you do the Supreme Kite of Time tournament, the online event to get certain artwork, Super Souls, Supreme Kite of Time skills, and Supreme Kite of Time herself as an actual playable character in Xenoverse 2, when you go for the third mission where you fight against whichever mentor you have selected, if you do this without any mentor being selected, Majuub will be your opponent. Now, do keep in mind, if you want to try this yourself, try it on a different character that you've already completed the story mode with. I believe you have to complete the story mode of Xenoverse 2, as in defeat Final Form Mirror, to actually be able to participate in the Supreme Kite of Time Conton City tournament event, when it does happen every between 2 to 8, give or take, weeks. But keep in mind, if you already have a mentor selected, you can only switch mentors, you can't remove them. I don't know if there is a way to do that, to get rid of one without having another one selected. So do keep in mind, it's worth doing it because it's quite interesting. Again, if you have no mentor selected on the third Supreme Kite of Time tournament mission out of the 5 of them, Majuub will be your opponent instead of it being whichever mentor you would have selected at that time. There was a glitch, or rather, maybe more accurately, an oversight back in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1, the original Xenoverse game, where if you were in an Awoken, or rather a transformation, as Awokens weren't a thing then, Super Saiyan, Potential Unleash were Ultimate, and Kaioken was a Super Attack. But if you were in, let's say for example, Super Saiyan 2, as you can see right here, and then you finished the mission, and then there was a cutscene with your custom character, your character would stay in that transformation throughout the entirety of the cutscene, as you can see right here. I defeat Final Form Mirror, the credits roll, and then I'm still in the Awoken skill, or rather the transformation, as I train, or as your character goes to train those 4 new recruits for the Time Patrol at the very end of the main story mode for the original Xenoverse game, after you defeat Final Form Demigra. I was going to say Mirror, no, Final Form Demigra in his beast form, beast-like form rather, not Gohan Beast, what have you. So again, the reason this is probably removed from Xenoverse 1 to Xenoverse 2 was because probably 2 reasons. Firstly, it was probably a bug or some sort of oversight or what have you in Xenoverse 1, so naturally it's going to be fixed for the sequel. Or if it was deliberately meant in Xenoverse 1, it was probably removed in Xenoverse 2 because you can't really do this with Awoken such as the giant Namekian Awoken. It just quite literally would not work. This next one, it's not exactly a hidden detail, but it is certainly something that I find absolutely remarkable. So for this one remarkable detail here, you can see this Super Soul right here, the hit Super Soul, the Now You Understand Surrender Super Soul. This was the final Super Soul. How many times will I say that those 2 words? Feel free to count. That was the final Super Soul added to the base game of Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 as the game, I guess, went gold and, released. Every single Super Soul after this one right here was added after Xenoverse 2 came out, either as part of paid DLC, via payload quests, mentor missions like the Zamasu one or what have you, or as part of when they update the TP Metal Store to add new Super Souls that are not part of paid DLC. It is absolutely stunning how much content Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 has got since it was released. I mean, there's more Super Souls post-release than there is since, in the base game. It is genuinely remarkable. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I would not have this any other way.